Hello guys, Reza here. We are going to continue with our Marvelous Designer for Beginner series. I hope you guys are enjoying the series so far. So the topic that we are going to cover and our focus basically is arrangement points and the power of arrangement points in Marvelous Designer. It's a very important session, so let's get started. All right, let's talk about what an arrangement point is in Marvelous Designer. Just to start with the viewport, if you go and hover your mouse on one of these buttons, you can see it says Avatar Display, and that's where you enable or disable arrangement points. And by default, it actually doesn't do anything because you need to have an avatar in the scene. Okay, let's go ahead and add an avatar. So I'm just going to go to the avatar. I can probably go one level back, go to avatar. I'm going to pick female and bring in this avatar that I have. And this is the avatar that Marvelous Designer is providing for us. Now, as soon as you bring in an avatar, this button all of a sudden gets enabled. So I'm going to click on it to have access to this list. First one is show avatar, and you can just hide or show the avatar. The next one is the topic of this video, show arrangement points. As soon as I click on it, you can see a series of blue dots will appear around the model. Let's leave this on and explore it just a little bit to see what these dots are about and how we can use them. The good thing about arrangement points is you can actually align your fabric according to the local direction of these points. For example, I can go in here and create a rectangle and create a simple 2D pattern. Now, on a normal day, you would see me selecting the pattern, trying to sort of align this here and then align it here, and you can see things will get clunky really quick, really fast, and it does take time for me to kind of find that sweet spot. I have to go in here and use my axis to be able to move this to the position, and it does take time. And we're not talking about one 2D patch. We've got plenty of patches that we need to work with. We have to be fast, quick. So that is not ideal. Now, the power of arrangement points is you can just draw your 2D pattern. And on the right hand side in property editor, if I scroll down, we have arrangement. And in point name, if I click in here, you can see we have a long list of areas, and basically each name corresponds to one of these points. For example, you need to look for arm, so I'm just going to go all the way to arm, and you can see we have arm inside, arm outside, arm front, and let's say I'm going to pick arm outside left, and all of a sudden the fabric aligns itself to the selected point. Now you can see we've got the right angle right off the bat, and we can start working with it. I can even go into my edit pattern and start tweaking this and say, okay, I'm probably need to move this down ever so slightly, probably select these guys, bring it up a little. You can pick up where you left off and just select another polygon. I'm going to zoom in, and I'm going to select another rectangle right here, and let's say we want to assign that to the wrist. Now, one way of it is to go in here and find the point manually. Another very cool method is with the 2D pattern selected, I'm just going to click on the dot, and bam, you can see how easy that is to align the patch to the point. And that's how actually I block out my initial model. So if I know that I deal with so many patches, I try to kind of create them individually and align them carefully. So for example, this one will get aligned to the chest. There you have it. So quick, so easy. And it even looks after the curve, which is a bit of a luxury at this point. But let's say you want to have another one. So I'm just going to press Control C, Control V, move that here. But let's say this one needs to go to the back with the fabric selected. I'm just going to select this one right here, and it takes care of everything. You probably have noticed what I used to do is to manually move it back and then flip the fabric and then push this back, move it to the position. At that time I couldn't talk about arrangement points, so I had to do it manually, which was unpleasant, I'm not gonna lie. But with the power of arrangement points, you can actually get this done and block out give yourself a rough estimation how long the fabric is going to be, and the placement of each patch roughly, just to block it out. It's very useful and very common to actually stitch the sleeve to the main part of the shirt using arrangement points, because you've got the right angle. You just need to get the measurement right. Probably in the next video I'm going to demonstrate that, but basically that's how you get this done. Now here's the catch. We are using a ready-to-go avatar, and because of that we have those nicely placed arrangement points on our avatar. What if we want to use our own custom model? So in the next chapter, let's have a look at that and see how we can go about that. I'm going to start with Maya actually, and with the base mesh that I will provide to you guys. You will see from start to finish how to create these points manually. All right, so this is a base mesh that we're dealing with. The 3D application really is irrelevant. I will provide this in an OBJ format, so you can actually bring it into any of your preferred 3D application. I predominantly use Maya, so I load it inside Autodesk Maya. Now, one thing you need to be mindful of is the measurement, and if you have been following my tutorials, I always measure my scene. I'm aware of how big or how small my scene is throughout all the effects or even lighting tutorials. So this one is no exception. You need to know how big your object is. I use the measure tool to measure this, and it's around 170 tall, which is sort of average height and somewhat realistic. Now, all you need to do is to select your model and actually export it as an OBJ and bring it inside Marvelous Designer. So let's do that really quick. Now I'm inside Marvelous Designer. I'm gonna go to File, Add an Avatar. Gonna select the female base mesh, and the scale is going to be 1000% because the scale is set to millimeter. We already talked about this, I believe, in our very first session to Marvelous Designer, so feel free to check that out. The avatar is in and we're ready to go. Now if I go in here and click on avatar display, you can see we have no arrangement points, which is a shame because we just saw how powerful this feature is. So let's see how we can actually create a custom arrangement point for our model. Now, to create the arrangement points, you have few options. You can use the main menu. So in the main menu, you can go to Avatar and go to Avatar Editor. If I click on it, we have the Avatar Editor window, and that's our main tool to create arrangement points. I'm going to skip the first tab and second tab and go straight into arrangements. Now, in order to create arrangement points, you first need to create bounding volume. And you encompass your geometry inside a bounding volume, and only then you create arrangement points. And those arrangement points will sit on top of your bounding volume. Now, how you name these bounding volumes and points is actually quite important. So you need to be a little bit organized and spend the time and name things correctly. And funny thing is, the way that you name this can change the behavior of the arrangement point. So something to be mindful of. I will explain in a second. Now let's start with, let's say, the chest area. I usually figure out the bounding volumes first and place them carefully, and only then start with my arrangement points. I'm going to just show you a couple of examples and go straight into the finished product that I've made, just to show you my preferred way of working, and then you can basically make a decision how you want to go about this. I'm going to start by adding a volume. By default, it's just a normal cylinder and places itself at the center of the scene. I'm going to name this body. There's no left, there's no right, it's just one body. We have no joints, no placement of the joints, so we don't need to worry about that. Shape, you can pick cylinder, you can pick cube. 99.9% of the time I pick cylinder, especially if you're dealing with a humanoid bipedal character. Now you can select the bounding volume and just move it up and start playing around with it. So for height, I think something like 600 should do the trick. For the length X and length Y, they don't need to share the exact same figure. As long as you cover the model inside it, that should do the trick. So I kind of came up with some sort of an oval shape, and yes, you don't need to be super accurate with it, but the better the placement is and the more accurate your arrangement points are going to be, and the easier it gets to work with the fabric. So look at it as sort of a long-term investment. You spend a little bit of time arranging some of these guys, and you have a much easier time tweaking or draping your fabric. So this one is done. Again, that will do. You don't need to follow any contour. That should do it. Now here's the thing that catches so many people off guard. In Marvelous Designer, if you bring an avatar, the arm is straight. So if you have a normal A pose and T pose where the arms are straight, then you have a much easier time working with it, because all you need to have is just one cylinder to cover the entire arm. For me, it's got a more humanoid realistic looking pose, so probably for this I need to have two cylinders. But for the leg, most of the time I actually use one cylinder or one volume. Okay, that should do the trick for now. So I have everything ready. So let's go to the next chapter. I'll let you guys to finish the other side. I'm not going to kind of bore you with the same old same. So let's go to the next chapter and see how we can add arrangement points on the model. Now, once that's done, it's a good idea to save your file so you don't lose any information. To save, you need to go to File, Save As, Avatar. So don't save as anything else, definitely save it as avatar, and then this file gets .avt extension for avatar, and then you can always load that file as your avatar. So let's say you've completed this side as well. You need to think about what would be the area of interest, what are you going to focus on, and of course, the more you have, the easier it gets to place arrangement points. Now, with arrangement points, you go to Points and click on the plus button, Add, and it says, all right, you've got your first arrangement point, and at first, nothing will show up because you have not assigned that point to any bounding volume. So let's say I would like to assign that to body. So I'm going to click on this and then say, all right, this point will go to the body. And as soon as you do that, if I zoom in, you see our arrangement point. If I click away, there we have the blue dot. So I am going to, let's say, name this body underscore front underscore 1. Now you have few controls. You can move it in x-axis, left and right. I don't want to because it's placed at the center. You can move it in y-axis, which I am going to use. So I'm just going to move it up. Let's say I'm going to use 85 and bring it up because I need more of these points on my bounding volume. So I am going to select the name, copy the name, go in here and paste. This one is going to be body front 2. I'm going to set that, apply it to body. I'm going to lower it to 65. I'm going to create another one. Body front 3. I'm going to go 45 in y-axis and assign it to body bounding volume. Going to the fourth one, body, I'm gonna go 25, and the last one, I usually use 5. So 5, assign it to the body bounding volume, and 5, and it places itself here. You can just repeat the same old same for this side and this side. I'm going to place some on the leg right. So let's do that. I'm going to click and go leg. And here's the part where things get interesting. If you end your name with underscore R, then you enable what we called arrangement point symmetry. This means that if you have another bounding box here, and if you name the exact same point in the exact same position underscore L, those two will get connected. So I usually think about the location. So leg, thigh, and then underscore. It needs to be assigned to leg R, and it needs to go up to the thigh area. I'm going to move it in x-axis ever so slightly. And again, if you would like to switch to orthographic view to make your job easier, I'm going to press 2, 3, 4, 5. These are all orthographic views. I usually press 2 to get to the orthographic view, and this is our front view, so you can see that I can actually nudge it a little bit to the positive X, maybe 51 would be a good idea. Yep, that's good. So that's basically how you do it, and that's how you name it properly. I'm just gonna add one more, and again, feel free to select this one, just copy the name and then go to the other one and paste. Well, that was a silly thing to do because the naming is not exactly similar. I'm going to call this leg knee underscore R. So even this one is actually underscore R because on the right hand side of the character. And you can see how quickly we're actually moving forward with the arrangement points. Now I can actually give this a sign to leg R and bring this point. I can actually zoom on it so you guys see what I'm doing. I can actually bring it here, and the placement of it, I think 51 was okay. If I press 2 on the keyboard, you can see I'm following the straight line. You can offset it and bring this in. So if I zoom in, you can actually lower it, and you can see now this blue dot will be pushed into the bounding box. There's nothing wrong with that. The only tricky part is selecting it right now, because I can select this one right now, but I cannot select this one now because it selects the bounding box. You have to go kind of here and you select it this way, which is a bit tricky, but that's fine. There's nothing wrong with it. And remember, the alignment will be placed here. So if you want to align your fabric, there will be a little bit of gap, but I honestly think there's nothing wrong with that. You just select the translate tool and move your fabric when you align it to this arrangement point. So there's nothing wrong with that. So that's how you actually move forward with this. Now, let's say I'm going to go ahead and save as. I can call this female WIP work in progress. Now, let's say I'm done with what I have. If I go in here and show arrangement points, you can all of a sudden see that I have arrangement points. If I go ahead and create a fabric with the 2D pattern selected, I can actually align it to these guys, and you can see it shapes beautifully, it positions itself beautifully. Such a powerful tool to be able to align your fabric to any location in no time at all. I'm going to show you what I have done as my finished product, and I will make it available to you so you get both this avatar and the avatar with the arrangement points done. So let me just load it up really quick. Now let's have a look at the final. I'm going to go to avatar and bring female AVT. Right off the bat, you guys need to check, make sure the arrangement points are available. So this is what I have, and a button underneath that, it actually shows the bounding volume as well. So let's enable both of them for now. So what I usually create, if arms are straight, I have only one bounding volume per arm. If not, then I will break it up because this angle is too sharp to have only one bounding volume. I usually create one for the ankle. I usually create one for the wrist, especially if there is any baggy cloth and the tip of it is going to be tight, then having that bounding volume is going to be quite helpful. For the neck, I actually create one bounding volume, but I will create actually quite a good number of APs or arrangement points. For the head, I usually create only one bounding volume, not more than that. And that's basically my approach to bounding volumes or BVs. As for the arrangement points, you can see I have quite a few number of arrangement points here. And this is what I'm talking about by saying symmetry. So you can see when I click one, the other side gets enabled, and that's because of the naming convention trick that I mentioned. So make sure to take that into consideration when you name your arranging points, so everything will be symmetrical, which can be quite useful. At any point of time, if you feel like you need to tweak, then you can easily go to avatar editor, and all of these points are editable, which is really good. You can see I've got my APs and I've got my BVs ready to go. And of course, if you want to have a kind of copy of your all the APs, you can actually save, and I have saved actually my arrangement points for the female, and I will share that with you as well if you want to use it. But for now, this will get the job done. I highly encourage you guys to use arrangement points on your avatar. It just speeds up your workflow. As usual, you can download the source files via my Patreon follow along tier, and you can follow me on Twitter to know more about all the upcoming tutorials as well. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you found this video useful, and see you in the next one.